Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of an Evolved Review. As always, I'm your host, James Caleb Kitchens. I'm joined here tonight with none other than Caleb Stovall. If you don't know this by now, this is the man who consumes more wrestling content than anyone in the known universe. He's already watched AEW Dynamite tonight. Caleb, welcome back to the show.
It's true, and I'm wearing my AEW hat proudly because it was a badass episode tonight, and I encourage everyone to go and watch it. But it is true, I consume more wrestling content than Conrad Thompson has podcasts of wrestling.
Can't see it, but I do have the coveted AEW jacket.
Oh, that's nice. You bought that in Atlanta, didn't you?
No, actually, I didn't because I was in line to buy one, and then I looked on the website, and this is life hack for you. The stuff that they sell at the live events for AEW is actually more expensive at the live event. You can go on their website and order it for less.
Well, then.
So just a heads up for you.
Well, you need to see the shirt that I'm rocking.
See, that's amazing. I got on my Garden City, so we're both repping, but that flatline, I don't know. So I don't know if this story's been told, but so the night of the final Flatline Pro Wrestling show, we're in the back, and I've got my Flatline shirt on. And because the two shirts I had brought that night is I had a Brandon Parker Sin Is In shirt, which if you look at the photo of the four of us, that's what I'm wearing. And the reason I'm wearing that is because I had my Flatline shirt on, and Hex goes, "Damn it, dude, I don't have my Flatline shirt. I got to wear that tonight." So I took mine off. I gave it to him. So at the end of the show, he actually is like covered in blood, and he hangs the bloody Flatline shirt up on the cage. And that was my shirt. So very interesting. I was very proud that it got used for that purpose.
I remember that night. I remember it very vividly. There's a lot of things that I forget about what I've done and everything like that, especially as you get older and you do so much stuff in life. But I remember that night, man. That was a surreal night for all of us. That was a really cool night. And Flatline, I always maintained, was like the reason. I've always been into pro wrestling. It's no secret. But when I got behind the scenes, when I had the opportunity to be a part of Flatline, that really made it like, okay, now I just want to know everything about pro wrestling and all that stuff. So yeah, man, I have so much good memories from Flatline. And speaking of Flatline, it was officially announced today, wasn't it?
That
Anthony Henry.
Yeah, we covered it here on the show already, but today, so we're recording this on the 24th of February, so it'll be a little while before this airs. But so today I made a post on the VPW page. This is the largest class of Performance Center athletes ever in the history of the Performance Center, and among them were a lot of people that have performed in the Southeast, but the most notable on the list, of course, was Anthony Henry. And we definitely, a lot of people who are around in the Flatline era really saw him evolve as, no pun intended, from someone who, was very good in the ring. And the athleticism has always been, I mean, he can go with anybody in WWE from an athleticism standpoint. But he really evolved his character work in Flatline, his stuff he was doing before the Rapture, his huge turn when the Rapture came out. I'm telling you, I don't want to really go down the Flatline tunnel, but that footage only exists in two places, and someday I would love to get it all edited and restored and get it online so that people who weren't there to experience can really know how good it really was. Two copies of that footage exist. One of them is on the server here behind me. You can't see it because I have this cool like background thing. And then the other one is at Chris Wiggins' house on an external hard drive. So that's the only two places that footage exists.
Well, when he becomes WWE champion and they make a big documentary about him, I'm sure they'll ask for the footage there at WWE.
Oh, yeah, and they can have it for a nominal fee. And and they have to air the War Games match on the network. And we would all 10 of us would like royalties, please.
Well, at least two of them will get it because Anthony Henry and Antoine Brewer are now in the same. How crazy is that, too? That both the Fireman and Henry are now going to be reunited again in WWE, man. That is incredible. I can't wait to see it. And yes, as much as I love AEW, I will be watching NXT when Anthony Henry shows up on that
Oh,
thing.
of course.
Guaranteed.
Of
Guaranteed.
course.
I'll
Speak
probably watch it after on the network, but it's a different story.
So we've spoken a bit about, some new recruits to the WWE, but let's go to the opposite end of that spectrum. So we found out today that WWE is partnering up with A&E, which is it's interesting to me and neat that they still do these type of things even though they have their own network. But it's nice to get another like content creator and get their take on it. So WWE and A&E are teaming up, and they are making a series, and that series is called WWE Biography Legends. And it's gonna be a like hard 1 hour focus on like a different legend each and every time. Or I'm sorry, it's not 1 hour. It's gonna be 2 hours. So we're gonna get eight.
Well, that's even better.
I know, 8 2 hour episodes. And so it's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's the first
Yes,
one. How could you go wrong with that? But
of
I mean,
course.
honestly, I feel like you saved that one for last. But they're going to have Macho Man Randy Savage, which I think is awesome. There's probably some stuff there that they can talk about that wasn't on Dark Side of the Ring. Um, Roddy Piper, Booker T, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Mick Foley, and the Ultimate Warrior. Um,
Oh, wait.
and folks, if you were wondering, like, hey, this sounds like something that an Evolved review could cover, kind of like they do with Dark Side of the Ring. Well, guess what? We had that thought earlier today, and we will definitely be covering these as they come out. Um, let's see, the first episode. I'm trying to see when it is here. April 18th is the first one. So that's going to be the day after the viral return, which will be interesting. I will be dead to the world, but hopefully I'll be up to watch TV by that night. So we'll probably cover it that following week. Um,
Yes.
I am really hyped about this.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. When you sent that to me earlier, I was just like, oh my God, like that's so badass. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see how many impersonations of the Macho Man we get too in his episode.
Right. It'll be
I
very
think,
interesting to see,
I think, go
guest
ahead.
wise. It'll be interesting to see guest wise who they have on.
Yeah, because obviously, Macho Man's not here to tell a story. They'll obviously have his brother
Right.
um show up in that one. And I just can't wait. I think the one though that I am most looking forward to though is Stone Cold Steve Austin, because to me he is the greatest of all time. And that's no disrespect to Ric Flair or anybody else, but no one drew as much money and did as much within a short period of time than Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I mean, yeah, Stone Cold, we can definitely take a minute to talk about this. Stone Cold to me, it's called the wrestling business, right? So you can bring up your artsy Bret Hart stuff. No offense to Bret Hart fans out there. You can talk about how quote unquote perfect his matches were. I am somebody who likes to, if you ask me who the GOAT is, I'm going to go to Shawn Michaels because I think his bell to bell performance was incredible. But when you sit down and you think about it, there are three people in the business that ever became a true household name where you would have to go thousands of miles to find somebody who doesn't know who they are. Those three people are Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And out of the three of them, the man who drew the most money, and this is, what it really meant to draw. In the product today, you don't there no one really draws unless you're just talking about pure merchandise sales because one person isn't marketed to them. Edge isn't marketed, Roman Reigns isn't marketed, Kevin Owens isn't marketed. Yes, they may advertise those people, but when you talk about what the actual marketing the product is, the product is WWE and the network, right?
Yes.
We're going to sell ad revenue for 5 hours a week or 6 hours a week, I'm sorry, on actual cable television. That ad revenue is going into our pockets. We're also going to try to sell you WWE Network as much as we possibly can. Once we've sold you the network, we're now marketing WWE as a whole to you. And
Right.
that's not how the business used to work. In Stone Cold's era, whoever held the championship, they put the company on your back and you carried it. You were on the marquee, you were on the poster, you were on the damn uh, program left in the seat. People showed up to see you. People came out in droves to watch you get to the arena. This is back when the individual superstar was the product. And as far as that goes, Stone Cold drew what it really means to draw, which is kind of something that's lost on, unfortunately, a lot of not only wrestling fans but wrestlers today. Stone Cold did it better than anybody in history. Every
Yes.
arena back then, if you listen to anybody on a podcast who wrestled for WWE in that time, and it's some of the most money they ever made because they sold out every house show that Austin stepped foot in.
Yeah. In fact, X Pac or Sean Waltman makes the statement. He's like, back then I made a lot of money because of Stone Cold Steve Austin. So many
Everyone
people
did.
like that's why people wanted to get in a program with him. They were like, if you get in a program with Stone Cold Steve Austin, you're sure to draw, money and stuff like that. You might not be the main focus of it, but you're damn sure going to get a piece of the pie and everything like that. And Stone Cold, I mean, he was a walking badass. He had that old school mentality of like, okay, people might not think this is real, or people know that this isn't real, but they're gonna know that I'm real.
Yes.
I'm a walking badass. And Stone Cold, that's exactly what it was. And here's the thing: as much as he tries to be a nice guy in today's society, he still comes across that way.
Yeah.
Like, the aura of Stone Cold has never been lost, no matter what he has done, even with some of the goofy shit that he did, when he turned heel or whatnot. Like, and I'm sure we'll get into all of that, once that episode of the A&D thing premieres. But he's never lost that. As I work Master Control, and I recently just had to do an NBC show, and it's called Late Night with Lily Singh. Well, she had Stone Cold Steve Austin on her um, show, and he wasn't. I don't really know what he was promoting on her show or anything like that, or if he really was promoting anything. And she didn't seem like the type to be a wrestling fan, but she was a Stone Cold fan.
Right.
And as she is interviewing him, I'm sitting there just like, God, this dude is still a badass. Like like he just comes across that way. He comes across as that no care, don't give a fuck about you attitude. Like it, and that is what he was. And that was how the Attitude Era was launched. People can say, well, DX and all of this other crazy stuff that they were doing in the Attitude Era. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. There was one name that did that in the Attitude Era, and that's Stone Cold Steve Austin. And another thing that you can tell of how over he was, how guys will come out, cut a promo, and then later on in the night, they'll come out and have a match. And when they come out later on in the night after already being seen, nobody really, pops as hard as, they did when they first came out. When Stone Cold's music hits, when that glass broke, it didn't matter what time of the day he came out, they popped. Like
Yeah.
he probably has the loudest reactions in the history of the business, even bigger than The Rock, I dare say.
I would agree. I mean, at least for that initial reaction, and the thing about it too is you have so many wrestlers today, and I'm always a stickler for music, right? For entrance music and how relevant it is. One of the greatest things about Austin, now, he just naturally has an entertaining presence, right? When you see him on screen, you want to know what he's doing. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what he's doing, if it's a talk show, if it's a baking show, if it's he's on a reality show, if he's on a wrestling program, you want to see what he's doing. But the thing about his entrance music and why he was able to come through the curtain with that much momentum is he doesn't have a freaking 30-minute intro where the crowd is on their phones, in before he comes out. The glass breaks and he's right there. And that gave the entrance so much energy. You go to an indie show now or you watch WWE and everyone has this lengthy, you know, couple of 10, 20 seconds of entrance before they even come out where their video's just up there playing. And then a lot of them come out and they stand, the Drew McIntyre thing with the sword. I'm going to stand here at the top of the ramp and do all this stuff. And, the entrance is a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes long. And it's like, that's fine for like a big show where you want to, elevate everything and draw everything out and do this kind of a long form, build. Um, but the momentum that Austin had, it's when you heard that glass break, all hell was going to break loose,
Yep.
and you were guaranteed that. And that's something that's just lost on a lot of people today. I think if someone were to do something similar to that, I think they would have very good results. If they were to have some music that pops off big like that, and they're right there at the curtain immediately, I think it's a different kind of excitement.
And you could even say that for The Rock. I mean, when
Right.
the smell, and then he walk out. He didn't have this long, elaborate entrance, and man, I can't wait to see what they do with the Austin story. I'll tell you though, some that I'm really excited about. I'm really excited to see Booker T's.
Right.
I'm really excited to see that story because a lot of people don't realize how influential Booker T is. I think.
What do you think the over under is on Bad Bunny being on that?
Oh God. Or Bugs Bunny as Corny calls him.
Man, I've been doing a lot of traveling lately, and Corny's kind of like my third podcast that I listen to. Um, but yeah, man, I've been listening to him a lot, and I'm just like, man, these all sound the same. It's kind of getting to that point where it's like there's a list of things that they got to bitch about, and I don't know. Anyway,
Of
moving
course.
on, moving on. It's crazy that this is the second biggest topic of the week, but this shook up the internet, man. This shook up social media. I
It
have my
shook
own,
me.
yeah, I got my own opinions about it, and I'm sure we'll get to them. But we found out today that none other than Paul White, aka the Giant, aka the Big Show, um, has signed with All Elite Wrestling. I don't
Yeah.
know that we have a length on that. But yeah, it doesn't look like it. But it looks like this is going to be a backstage role, a commentary role, and also that he is going to wrestle. I like two out of the three of those. I think he has a good mind for the business. Um,
Obviously.
I think that he's an entertaining guy. I think his commentary will be great. I watched his TV show or whatever. He's an entertaining guy.
Yeah.
I think if he's going to be in the ring, it should be used incredibly sparingly. Because the way he was used in WWE, I mean, people were chanting, "Please retire." Um, so let's not forget that he doesn't need to be on Dynamite every week. If anything, he needs to work 3 pay-per-views a year, and it needs to be a big match. I do not want to see Big Show versus Sting. Please don't do it.
Really? I just want to see it for the nostalgia.
Please, God, don't do that damn match. They're going to. Don't worry, you'll get to see it. Um, but I worry about how they're going to use him, um, in the ring. But that's neither here nor there. It's still a huge signing. It's a pun intended big deal. And it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. Now before we get too far into it, you said you've already watched Dynamite tonight. Did he come out on screen at Dynamite?
No, he didn't come out on screen. All he did was which he didn't do anything. All they said was is he's going to appear on Dynamite next week. So they're hyping it, which I thought was a good move. Don't have him come out right now. Let wait for his anticipation. I know that when I saw the announcement, at first I thought someone had photoshopped his picture on an all elite thing,
Right.
because so many people did that crap, and they continue to do that online. I thought that's what it was, and then I looked, and it was All Elite Wrestling on Facebook, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is All Elite's Facebook? No way!" Like, that is one that no one saw coming. I think for the first time in a while, everyone can assumably say no one saw this coming. It wasn't reported or even speculated in the dirt sheets or anything like that. So, um, kudos for AEW on that one and keeping it quiet. And I'm very surprised that WWE didn't try to, stifle it by saying, WWE would like to thank Big Show and everything and all his future endeavors, blah, 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 all that crap. I mean, it's a good signing because here's the thing. He has a knowledge for this business that a lot of young guys can use. And you have to have that. I think even you would agree. Like, when you're putting on a wrestling product, you can't just go by young talent. You have to have that veteran voice. You have to have those veteran voices like a Tully Blanchard, like an Arn Anderson, like Sting, Jake the Snake Roberts. You have to have those kind of voices to lead the young guys to be like, hey, this is why we do certain things. This is why you shouldn't do certain things. I see where you're going with this, but here, let me, polish it more and everything like that. So, I mean, it's a great signing. I understand, people can say, well, he needs to be used right and everything like that. And I don't think he plans on getting in the ring that much. I think he will be used sparingly. I don't think that it will be an every week type of thing. And I disagree with you. I do want to see Sting versus the Big Show just because I just want to see it on TNT because it will remind me of Nitro. Okay.
You'll get it. You'll get it. I'm not
Just
I'm not gonna get my way here. You'll get it. Here's my counter thought on yes, I agree entirely. Like, yes, we need the Arn Andersons, the Tully Blanchards, the Stings, the Tazes, the Jake the Snake Roberts. Jesus Christ! I mean, him especially. I mean, that man. I have so much respect and admiration for him. um, I got to see him at Dragon Con in 2019. I have his challenge coin. I got to sit and talk with him for a little bit. Got to hear him tell his story about him basically coming back from his issues with drugs and alcohol and everything else. And I mean, in any medium, the man is a storyteller to the point that he can make you laugh, he can make you cry, he can make you smile. He can make you furious, as he did so many times throughout the 80s. Uh, but, I think here's the thing is my problem in AEW is I think that there's this status quo where the advice of these veteran voices is pretty much always drowned out with, well, this is the new way of doing things. And I don't like that at all. I mean, I think that there is, this is something that's happened on the indies where for years and years and years and years, the wrestling business has been stifled by these old crusty guys in the locker room saying, hey, don't go up there and do them high spots. Does anybody got any Vicodin? You can't be throwing all these super kicks and all, and all this other shit. Don't be slapping your leg when Anybody who's ever been in an indie wrestling locker room knows that that kind of thing exists. And at a certain point, the younger guys just went to hell with that. Like, we're going to go out there and do our own thing. And
Yeah.
that's good. Except there are certain things from the old school that have been handed down over, the years and years of wrestling that still work very well today. And
Yeah.
I think AEW is missing a lot of those things. Like, namely, like the rules and ring psychology mattering.
At
Um
times, yes.
and so that's my concern, is it's like, it doesn't matter how many veterans you're going to stack your locker room with if you're not going to listen to them. Like, if they really think that the best wrestling minds they have are Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, then we have a problem. If those are your voices in the locker room, then we have a problem. I think that Cody is, of course, has an incredible foundation. I think he has the business down. I mean, Dustin is there. Jericho is there, although I don't know. I think Jericho may not be of the soundest mind anymore, but that's neither here nor there. MJF is there. He is probably the youngest guy that has the best grip, a lot of times. So I'm very glad that they've signed him, that they've signed Paul White. I think this he brings credibility, and I think he's going to bring some name value to the product. Um, I think we're going to honestly, this is maybe a different topic, but I think we're going to see a lot more influx from coming from WWE because
Yep.
just recently, this is something we haven't covered. They announced no raises in promotions indefinitely, and they're
Yep.
doing this because they're trying to be sold, as we have talked about on here. When you're trying to be acquired, that's like the easiest, or one of the easiest ways to let people know, like, hey, the cost, the overhead is not going to increase unless you increase it. But it's a very bad look when WWE just recently announced that they had their record year last year, that they made more money than they've ever made. And one of the main reasons for that is the death of the house show, which a lot of us have been calling for a long time.
Yeah, I've been saying that for years now because I mean, the last few house shows that I went to in Augusta when I lived there, um, I just was sitting there just like, this is so boring. Like, I don't know why anyone would want to pay $5 for this.
Yeah.
Like, it just there was nothing to it. Like, it might be because I hadn't followed Raw that much. Yes, I consume more wrestling content, but I mostly consume past content and stuff like that. I can't get into a lot of what the main product is. I do sometimes, but not as much. And really the only draw that they've had was Becky Lynch. And she was in the first match in the house show, and I went, well, if she's the main draw, and there's a main event, who the hell's the main event? Like you just don't know anymore. So I've been saying that for a while with the house shows, and that was going to be my point. With the Big Show signing or Paul White, um, I guarantee you, and especially with the announcement of the Peacock deal with WWE, and there's probably a bunch of chatter going on right now behind the locker rooms in WWE. I guarantee you, a lot of guys and girls are going, all right, we might want to start thinking about elsewhere and stuff like that, because a lot of them are not happy with what they're doing. A lot of them are not happy with what the direction that the company is going and everything like that. Which, if there really is a direction, it seems to be going like in just all different places with it. So, and then on top of that, you're gonna say, well, no bonuses and raises, and they need to get rid of all of, or they need to clean house every now and then. But then we just talked about Anthony Henry signing. Well, he was part of one of the largest recruit classes in history of WWE. So what does that tell you? You know?
I mean, I think it tells me that there are people on the way out. They are expecting some people to not renew their contracts. I think they had to restock NXT. I think NXT might be looking at maybe an expansion of some sort. Or they're going to be moving more people up to the main roster. Here's the thing: if people do start leaving, if even if 5 people from WWE came over to AEW today, and it's not going to be your top people because they're being taken care of, it would be like, like Cesaro and below. Although he would be the best if I had to pick one person. As much as I would love for it to be AJ, he's not coming. Um, so I mean, it would be Cesaro, but
No, it's starting to wind down his career.
right. Well, AJ's starting to wind down his career, and the contract that he signed to do so, Vince McMahon knew that AEW would get him because he would be the biggest fucking draw they have for them right now, unless they could get like Edge, and that's not gonna fucking happen. But
Well, it was close.
that,
Like,
yeah,
it was close, and so that's why McMahon offered him a bunch of money and told him, "All right, we'll put you back in the ring," even though they didn't want to.
I mean, it would be because they understand that could change. That's a turn of the tide signing. You've got a guy that's been gone for 10 years and he's coming back to wrestling, and then Edge has not lost a step at all.
Yeah.
I think he's just as good as the day he walked out.
Yeah. Here's also another thing too, that you hadn't mentioned, and it was kind of announced today. It was definitely brought home on Dynamite tonight recently, though, because you asked what Paul White did. Well, he didn't do anything, but there was an announcement. He's going to be part of the commentary team, but that's not for Dynamite or Dark. That is for another hour of AEW that they're fixing to launch, called AEW Dark Elevation,
Right,
which is going to premiere on Monday nights.
right. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they maybe do a little bit of a different format with it. AEW Elevation to me sounds like an NXT type of thing where they're trying to get you ready to go and be on Dynamite, maybe. I'm not really sure, but I do think that if AEW brings on any more talent, especially if people start, this mass exodus from WWE, I fear they're going to end up in a WCW situation where you've got 30 people over here on contract for no reason,
Yeah.
and they're just sitting there, or they're on they're on dark or whatever. Um, I would personally, and this is just coming from me, I would love to see them just use people that they have signed on dark, and the reason for that is I'm not going to go into what the indie workers on there are making, but I will tell you this: if an indie worker goes and works a dark taping, they're typically going to make more money than they make in like 2 months of solid bookings just going up there, even if they don't get used. um and I'm glad that they have that opportunity, but it also is creating problems for the indie companies in around that area.
Yeah.
On the
Which
plus side,
these aren't, working right now. So
that's true. On the plus side, we did get an excellent Eddie Kingston and James Drake.
I knew I was gonna bring that up, and I knew when I saw that you were marking out
Oh
uh
yeah,
completely.
the
And
whole
so
time. Because I think Eddie Kingston is one of the best people, the best minds they have that gets it. He's been amazing for years. He is a veteran,
yeah.
and so is James Drake. And if they get those two guys, I mean, they need to sign James Drake today. Like, if the ink is not already on the paper, then whoever makes those decisions needs to be fired. Because Drake is the guy. I mean, he's main evented on the fucking WWE network. He's been brought to the ring by Paul Heyman. What the fuck do you want? You know,
Yeah.
bring the man on, sign him to whatever kind of deal. Um, Maybe don't throw the exclusivity in there so I can still book him every now and then. But I mean, come on. Come on. He's that fucking good. He
Oh
just
yeah.
is. And I think that they could I think his character is different than any character on AEW. I think he's believable. I think he makes sense. I think people want to see him. And I don't think WWE would ever use him correctly.
No, I think that's very apparent when he main evented the Evolve show and they choose not to sign him and everything
Right.
like that. And they went with Austin Theory, which by the way is a great signing. Don't get me wrong, Austin Theory is amazing, but how are you going to have those two headline and not offer both of them a contract, kind of thing?
Well,
It's
Theory was a done deal before they stepped in the ring.
That's very
Yeah.
true, obviously, but
Which is why a lot of people thought Drake was going to win that match.
yeah, and I would have loved for him to win. But it is what it is. It was still an amazing show from Evolve, and it was amazing to see. Like again, I don't know about you, but I almost wanted to start crying when not when I saw them in the main event, Drake and Theory, but when Paul Heyman came out and
I
said
lost
the
it.
taller badass JD Drake, I just was like, oh my God. Oh
Yeah.
my God. I'm calling this man's matches. Like, this is amazing.
I don't know how
Uh,
Drake kept it together.
he
I
probably
would have
had a
lost
hard
my mind.
time.
I would have lost my
he,
mind.
he probably had a hard time. I bet you he didn't even know Heyman was coming out, too. I bet you. Like they probably
Maybe.
like we're just like, yeah, the main event's gonna happen, and then here comes Heyman, and Drake was probably just like, what? Like,
I would assume that maybe not working the boys is kind of a policy there, but I don't know. I'll tell you what, next time I talk to him though, I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna ask him if they knew.
yeah,
Um
I, he has such a great mind. I've talked to him backstage in the locker room and stuff like that, and he's such a great guy too. Like he's a nice guy. He's funny and everything, but when that light turns on, man, he is a badass. Like he
yeah.
is just a walking badass, and I hope to see more of him in AEW. I really do, but who knows?
Well, that being said, it is now time. You see the banner up there. We've been talking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And today we're reviewing Ring of Honor number 474. So
My favorite.
if you haven't seen this yet, once again, this entire tournament that we've been reviewing, it's absolutely free. It's on Fight TV. Go and check out 474. Hit that pause button on your podcast player of choice or on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you happen to consume our amazing content. And pause it, go check it out, and come back. And this is the second round of the tournament. So this is actually, we are trying to decide who will be the last two people to go into the final four. This is our last episode of the second round, and then we're going to be going into the semifinals. So we got two episodes left. We got the semifinals, and then we have the grand finale. Up first, going into this, the very first match, Fred Yehi versus Tracy Williams, Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. Now, Fred Yehi defeated Silas Young in the first round. Tracy Williams defeated Russ Taylor in the first round. This matchup, I wasn't absolutely sure. I didn't know that I wanted this matchup until I saw it. And let me say, I really, really loved this match.
Yes. Yes, it was amazing. Like, oh my God, the strategy involved in this matchup, the psychology, just everything about it, man. And the fact that they brought up, that there's been about 15 rope breaks so far in this tournament. I mean, they're going through everything. And these two men, oh my God, they killed it. Like
Right.
just incredible.
Yeah, the build for this was really good. They talked about how these two had tagged together. They did the catch handshake at the beginning. They did they talked about them tagging, the fact that Tracy Williams is actually 3-0 against Fred Yehi on the Indies. Um, and Fred yeah didn't use any rope breaks in his opening. His upset in the first round didn't use any rope breaks. They talked about all of that. Now Tracy Williams used all his rope breaks in the first round, and he
Yes,
used them all again here.
yes. But he made Fred Yehi use all of his as well.
Yeah,
So I mean, they're really putting a spotlight on these rules, saying, making them more valuable and stuff
right.
like that. It just, God, it was so good. And dude, I I don't know when and I don't know where, but Hot Sauce Tracy Williams, I maintain that they need to make this guy Ring of Honor champion because he embodies what Ring of Honor is. And to me, he could go on a Nigel McGuinness or Brian Danielson run as world champion.
They need to
I'm
lock him up if they haven't, because
yes,
AEW could use this guy.
yeah. Hell, we could use him at Viral Pro Wrestling.
I don't know. I watching this, I'll be completely honest with you. I've checked on contracts for a couple of these guys to see if they have exclusivity. So he's not one of them. I definitely will probably do that because I would love to have Tracy Williams come down. I mean, that would just be incredible.
That would be. I
Um,
mean, he's an amazing worker, as you can see, and he's believable.
yeah,
Like when I watch him, and really what I've seen throughout this whole tournament, these guys look like they're trying to win a match. They
yeah,
look like they're in a contest. And I don't know if that's his MMA background as well or what, but that's what I have loved, and that's what I always love about Ring of Honor in general. I know at times, guys can go far with the high spots in Ring of Honor as well, just like they do in the Indies and just like they do in AEW at times. But I feel as though Ring of Honor, for the most part, guys are always trying to win a match, which is what this whole tournament has been about. You hear it from Jonathan Gresham, you hear it from Jay Lethal, and you hear it from Tracy Williams that their goal not only is to become the pure champion, but to restore the honor that was lost from Ring of Honor, pretty much.
right. Agreed. You know, I loved one thing about that on that note though, and this was something that I've worked. I we mentioned this before. I've worked on shows with Fred. He's such a cool guy. He's got to stop grinning in the match. There's a couple times I caught him doing it, and even if I know that he might be trying to make it look like he's like gritting his teeth and like bearing down, like he's trying to put a lot of strain, like he's straining himself to get out of a hold or whatever. But he's got that like huge like smile, and it looks like he's grinning, and so he's got to work on that shit. That a couple times took me out of it just a tad, and I was like, these two know each other so well. Tracy Williams is probably fucking with him. He's probably like whispering like random funny shit to him because wrestlers do that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I do want to say there's a point in this match with about 4.5 minutes left. Fred Yehi hits an awesome combo. He does like the foot stomp, leg sweep, and then it's like a shining wizard of some sort off with his head. Um, from that moment, that combo was amazing. From that moment, like Yehi gets this amazing shine where he goes on this like the last 4.5 minutes of this match were just insane. It was probably if I had to say, it was my favorite part of the tournament so far with these two, where they just had this incredible like the timing was perfect, the execution was perfect. Um, you know, they went through the rest of their rope breaks. Yehi gets so much momentum. Tracy Williams cuts him off with this huge elbow, and it was just this amazing cutoff spot that I'm like, why have I not seen anyone do something like this? It was like if I was running a wrestling school, I would show this to people as a textbook, like babyface getting their shine in and then the heel cutting them off. This would be on the curriculum, this couple of minutes of this match. Um,
Yeah.
and I was more into it. I stopped looking at it as someone reviewing a product, and if you can do that to me while that's what I'm actually doing, it's impressive. Um, but I really liked this match, and I liked the Dragon Sleeper finish because it's just Dragon Sleeper's a cool ass move.
Yes, it is. Yeah, man, I love this match so much, and we've seen some great matches so far in this tournament. I put this in the top 5 of what we've seen so far. And that's just so far. We still haven't even gotten to, the best parts, so to speak, of the tournament. And both of these guys show that they can both be like main event type stars and everything like that. It's as far as in ring work, as far as character wise and everything like that, you could, analyze that all you want to, but they're just amazing in the ring. And I personally know Fred Yehi. I trained with him at WWA 4 when I was up there. He was, there working on his craft and stuff like that. And again, I'll still maintain that he cut one of the funniest promos I've ever seen in my life, where he just said he's in big trouble now, like several times. And as he was saying it, he just goes, "He's in big trouble now. You can stop rolling whenever you want to." like, he just said you can stop rolling whenever you want, because they were pre-taped and everything
Right.
like that. So it was just he's amazing. And I hope Ring of Honor signs him as well. Like I think they should lock both of them into a contract. Ring of Honor is a little bit different though, and they always have been for years. They're not really that company that can lock people into guaranteed contracts at times. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. It depends on who you are, type of thing. They just recently signed Rush or Roosh. I think it's Roosh, actually. I don't think it's Rush. I think it's Roosh. They signed him. They signed PCO. They signed Jonathan Gresham and Jay Lethal. They're under contracts. But a lot of those, and sometimes they use that for storylines, just kind of like the NWA does. They'll have it to where like these guys are fighting for contracts that like their contracts are expiring, so they need to have a win in order to secure a contract, kind of thing, which can make for great story and stuff like that. I love this match, man. I loved it so much.
Yeah, man, I liked it too. Tracy Williams advances, and he will face Jay Lethal in the semifinals, and I am
I
so ready, so
I
ready
can't
for that.
wait to cover that one, because they have said that that was the match of the year of 2020.
I
That was one of them.
don't,
That was
I
one
don't,
of them.
I don't doubt it at all.
That was a candidate of it, even more so than the final for the pure tournament. So I can't wait to see that. That's going to be amazing.
Um, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I liked EC3's promo here. I'm not a huge EC3 guy, but I liked his promo. I liked this setup because we talk about simple storylines a lot. He went out and he talked about the history of Ring of Honor, and he dropped all these big names, throughout the history of Ring of Honor. He talked about the Briscoes. Um, I can't remember who else he name dropped, but it was, you kind of your bigger names throughout the history of Ring of Honor. And right after this, I'm sitting there thinking, please, God, please don't let them have another person interfere and have another impromptu match like they did at the last episode. I would have lost my shit. It would have taken me completely out of it. But they didn't. He goes backstage and he encounters Shane Taylor, who has a very classic heel. This is attitude era stuff where he has this reaction of, hey, you were listing off all these big people who built ROH up from the ashes, and you didn't say shit about me. And it just created this great dynamic. Shane Taylor is one of my favorite people in Ring of Honor or in the Indies. Period. Like
Why
he's
didn't
just
you
an entertaining guy. Yeah, yeah, he's a very entertaining guy. And I mean, I think he has great ring work, and I think he cuts a good promo.
Yes.
So I was very happy to see him here.
Yes, and then the Briscoes. What? I ain't see you lay no bricks. I ain't see. I love the Briscoes.
Me too, man. They're great, and I loved that about them. That that they came into this promo, and it was this very organic moment where they reacted. I didn't see your name on no deed, and that I just thought that was awesome.
That AJ Styles in a shoot interview one time was he raved about the Briscoes. He's like, they are some of my favorite characters in wrestling right now because they are not characters. They are playing themselves. Like that is who they are, and you believe it. And Jay Briscoe is a walking badass again, like he's one of those few badasses that you see in wrestling these days. And then Mark Briscoe, I mean, he might be one of the most entertaining people as well. And when you put the two together, obviously they're brothers and everything like that. But it's just, man, they just create so much good television. And to me, they could do even more than what they're doing with them at times. But they're just, yeah, they're amazing. It's amazing to me how long they've been with Ring of Honor. Like, there's always been these rumors, and I believe that they've been offered contracts by WWE at times, and they've never left Ring of Honor. They've always stayed true to Ring of Honor. So obviously they have some sort of loyalty with ROH, which I like. But yeah, man, I love the Briscoes. I love the way this was set up too. I love the fact that, hey, there's three of y'all. There's three of us. And even EC3's like looking at him like, I don't know if I necessarily want to tag with y'all kind of thing.
Yeah,
It was great. But getting back to that, I like how we're still focused on the pure tournament. That's been, the focus of this relaunch. But then it's like, okay, there's the pure tournament part of it, and there's, what we really want to focus on for right now. But then we need to bring in the other stories that we want to tell here in Ring of Honor, because obviously not every person's going to be involved in the pure tournament. We want to bring in those other rivalries, and we want to bring in the other things that we offer here at ROH. I don't know about you, but I think it's really brilliant the way that they've done it.
I agree. I agree entirely. I really liked this setup, and I want to see this match. Um, before we go, before we wrap up, let's cover the last match here, in the second round. I just want to say there's very few people with a catchier tagline than Josh the Goods Woods. It's just catchy. It's fun to hear it, and it's fun to say it.
It
Um,
is.
and then he was up against PJ Black, the Darewolf. Um, I gotta say, whereas Yehi and Williams, I didn't know that I wanted to see that match. It didn't hype me that much. I love Tracy Williams and I love Fred Yehi. I just didn't. I didn't understand like how good they were going to be, together. This was kind of the opposite. I see Josh Woods and I see PJ Black and I like both of their styles and I'm like these guys are going to work well together. But I honestly didn't care for this a whole lot. There were some great moments. You know, there was a moment where they did a like a backbreaker off the second rope into a German, which was cool. There was some, like anything in Ring of Honor, there's some neat looking spots in the match. But I overall thought this was kind of sloppy, and I didn't think it was paced that well.
I kind of agree with you on that one. I wasn't. I guess I wasn't as excited as you were for it, and I kind of felt the same way. I found myself, playing with my phone and more so looking at the notes I was writing than I was the match. It still was a pretty good match, I thought, but I thought it could have been better for the both of them, but hey, it is what it is, I still thought though, for the most part, they still did a pretty good job. But I agree with you. They didn't really mesh well together, and I really like Josh Woods too. Like I think there's also money involved in him because not only does he bring that believability, but he also is very entertaining as well. Like he shows a very entertaining side to him. It's almost like a fake stupidity, if I could use that term. Like he acts kind of like he's this klutz, but then like he gets in the ring and you're like, okay, that guy's not someone to mess with. Like it's almost like it's purposefully done, kind of thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think I would agree there. Let me ask you something about this match, though, that I did want to say is, do you think that Josh Woods going over on PJ Black, would you consider that an upset? Because, and the reason I ask that is because PJ Black's kind of the veteran here. He's easily the bigger name. I mean, he's been on the big stage, you know.
I could see that. Maybe not for me personally, because I kind of expected Josh Woods to win this. I was like, they're clearly going to push him, and he's going to face someone more with a wrestling style like him, and everything like that. But I can see how someone not familiar with Ring of Honor and familiar with PJ Black could be like, okay, this is an upset. It's about as an upset as, I would say Fred Yehi going over Silas Young was a bigger upset because that one I didn't expect.
I mean, that was a debut, yeah.
Yeah, I expected Silas Young to win that matchup. Instead, Fred Yehi went over, but this one I was expecting Josh Woods to go over. So to me it would have been the opposite had it been PJ Black. But I can see for other people, PJ Black, not going over was a surprise. But I wasn't surprised of it. But I can see how that would be.
Sounds good. Well, that being said, Jonathan Gresham is going to be facing Josh Woods in the semifinals, and I hope that Josh Woods, has said his prayers and eaten his vitamins, because Gresham is just another beast in the ring. So we'll be covering that on our next episode, and then of course we'll be covering the finals, and not only that, but we've got some exciting episodes coming up. We've got our top five WrestleManias of all time. We're both going to talk about that leading up to WrestleMania. Ideally, I want that to air the day before. We might even do it a few days before, because that weekend, of course, people will be traveling, and there will be NXT and all sorts of other things. So we don't want it to get jumbled up in there. But sometime right around then, we're going to release our top five of WrestleManias of all time. We're going to go in depth. We're going to talk about all these great moments. And then, of course, as we said earlier, we're going to start reviewing the Biography Legends series that's coming out starting on the 18th. We will have a lot of stuff coming up that we're going to talk about. So there's exciting times ahead. And then, of course, we have Dark Side of the Ring Season 3, 14 episodes now that we're all looking forward to. So
I can't wait for that. And it's interesting that I say that I can't wait for the Dark Side of the Ring, because I thought after last season, I was like, I don't know if I can do another Dark Side of the Ring season. But a lot of these, yes, a lot of them will have tragic endings. We know that, unfortunately, and we'll have to get through that. But some of those that I'm just really looking forward to. I'm so looking forward to the XPW episode, because I told you, I said, I called it. I said that has to be a Dark Side of the Ring, because I've maintained it. That is one of the worst wrestling promotions I've ever seen put together. And yes, even worse than Herb Abrams' promotion.
I mean, you said it, man. And I didn't believe you, and I was like, they're not going to do that shit until they run out of stuff to talk about. And I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. Uh, so as
I
always,
realized that from the New Jack episode too. They were like, might want to look more into this promotion.
that's true.
I
That's
guarantee
true.
it. And
Um,
FMW. I'm looking forward to that one too. FMW. That's going to be great.
Agreed. I really want to see what Bischoff has to say about the joint show they did with New
I want to
Japan.
see that too, because you wouldn't think that that would be a dark side of the ring topic, but there's obviously more to it than we know. So I can't wait to see that. It's going to be fun, man. I still love this podcast and everything like that we're doing. I love, me. I love covering anything wrestling. So I'm looking forward to it, man. We've got some good stuff coming up.
We do. As always, definitely check out our friends over at Superhero Homies. I don't know if I covered this in the last episode, but here coming up during the month of March, I myself am going to be co hosting that podcast with none other than Superhero Homie Q, who's appeared on this program. He's appeared on your Power Rangers Go program. He's one of the co hosts there. Um, so check that out. We are going to be reviewing, we're going to be covering WandaVision. We're going to be covering Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we're going to be covering the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, and several other things. So always check them out. If you want up to date, like week to week coverage on what's happening in WWE and elsewhere, check out our friends over at the Tapped Out Podcast Network. That they do a great show over there, and they even talk about some Georgia indie stuff. Viral Pro Wrestling has been popping up on a lot of people's lips over the last couple of weeks with a lot of buzz that's been going on. So I have just thought that was terrible. Um, I'll find some way to deal with it and cope. And then, as always, I know you've got a big program going on over at SWN. You announced it on the last episode where you're going to be looking at the Monday Night War in depth. Everybody's really excited for that. I know I'm excited for it. Um,
Yes.
so, yeah, there's just a lot of good things coming, folks. There's a lot of content that you can listen to in the car or on a run or whatever. So, Caleb, man, thanks for being on here with me each and every week, dude.
And thanks for having me, man. I'm always down to talk pro wrestling. And yes, just remember, folks, I consume more wrestling content than any of you.
He absolutely does. And so, on that note, tonight we talked about ROH 474. We're gonna get into finishing up this pure tournament. I'm excited for it, and of course, this has been an Evolved review.